They tried to burn me up. I'm sorry about the traffic noise. I'm out actually at the end of my driveway. They're saying they don't know the cause of this. As you can see, the telephone pole nearly burned up. This tree, it's fried, it's burned up. The fencing down here at the neighbor's house burned up. More trees back here burned up. Again, they're saying they don't know who caused this or what caused it. I know exactly what caused it. You guys remember the video I did a couple, maybe a year and a half ago? And I was out here at the end of my driveway, and I said there's homeless people living down here. I said there was a mattress down there, a bunch of alcohol. People were basically camping out down there. They didn't have a tent, but they were hanging out down there. And now we see this fire, so I know the cause of the fire. And that's just a small example of what's happening. Of course, this is nothing compared to what's happening over on the East Coast and in other parts of the world. But this could have been much worse. This could have spread down the entire fence line. And this is how much bigger fires are started. They usually start from something small, from what I read. And just an example of what's going on here in California with the homelessness, and how it's more than just the people hanging out, in the trees. It's some big risks, right? So we're going to get into that more. The homeless situation has to do with the cost of living, housing. It all goes back to the money, system of money. We're going to get into that and a lot of other news. Let me go ahead and get out of this noisy area and get back to the studio here. All right, everybody, back in the studio. So yeah, that's some events that happened. I was pulling out of my driveway last week one day, and they were still out there. Actually, the power company was out there when I was pulling out, but I found out that the fire department had come out overnight and put that fire out. But it got so high on the telephone pole, the fire, it actually damaged the power lines. And like I was saying, it could have went down the fence. It could have spread much worse. Luckily, it's kind of a busy road that I live off of. So my guess is that a passerby called 911 or called the fire department and had them come out and put out that fire. But yeah, just an example of what's going on here. For those of you that watched that video maybe a year or two ago, I told you that there's people camping out there, hanging out there. Some of you had said put in a bunch of rocks, or somebody even said put in a beehive. A lot of interesting ideas that I had from my audience here. But we've got a lot of more current economic news to get caught up on. But first, the increase in homelessness in California, but more specifically here in San Diego. They're saying 3% year over year, with another 10,600 people coming newly homeless in just a year, which is pretty alarming here. That was a smaller increase than the 20% increase in 2023, which was year over year compared to 2022. So they're saying it slowed down, which I find hard to believe because the cost of living hasn't come down. But the 3% increase, when you think about that number, that goes right along with the rate of inflation. Now, that's the official inflation number. Of course, I think most of us here agree, and myself included, agree that 3% is a joke, or whatever the latest CPI number was. I always say add about 8 to 10% onto whatever number that they're telling us. In fact, why don't I just get you the latest numbers here? Out of the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, they tell us that in September it was 2.4%. So inflation coming down, if you believe these numbers. Now, this source here divides it by category. Let's add energy in here. If I can actually click it here. They're saying energy prices went down. Well, gas prices did go down briefly. But if you look at people's electricity bills and their energy bills at home, I don't really see anybody getting relief. I know I'm not getting much relief. We try to use as little as possible. I think most people try to use as little as possible. But when I say that, I really mean it. Like, for example, I've got neighbors around here. Homes are close enough together in my neighborhood that I can hear people running their air conditioning. Some people run it all day and night. All day and night. We might run it in the hot months from like July to September. Even October is pretty hot here. We might run it from like 12 noon when it kind of starts getting hot up to like 6:30 at night at the latest. So maybe 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours at the most on extreme hot days. So I think we're we conserve energy very well. Don't use a lot, but I haven't seen much relief though in what we do pay in a month-to-month energy cost. All right, let's talk about one of the biggest risks that's out there right now for the economy, for the markets, the financial markets included, We've got war escalating now. 100 U.S. troops approximately are going to deploy in Israel to man anti-air batteries. That's the headline, anti-air batteries. I don't want to get too much into it. The bottom line is I told you that the U.S. was going to get involved, over a year and a half ago I said that. And here we are now, not just financially, but troops involved in these conflicts. Mass casualty event in northern Israel after Hezbollah drone strikes IDF soldiers. Folks, it's just going to get worse, especially now with the way that the global financial system and the economy is functioning right now. Most people just living off debt, not just in the US, but globally. And if it weren't for the military spending, I think a lot of people would be in negative growth right now. And actually, you'd see a lot of recessions being declared, not just in the US, but in a lot of the world. So with the cost of living remaining where it's at, not really getting easier for people, just getting worse, but at a slower pace. When you look at slowing inflation, that's what that really means, getting worse, but at a slower pace compared to previous. We've got people investing, trying to make money. And of course, crypto is a big thing. We've got a British man suing council over 647 million that he lost in Bitcoin. I guess he had it on some sort of flash drive, and he thinks it got thrown away. So he wanted to do a complete excavation of the landfill to try to find this here. James Howells, an IT engineer from Newport, is suing Newport City Council in the UK in damages after accidentally discarding a hard drive. Okay, it was a hard drive containing about 8,000 Bitcoin. So he's not going to win that as far as I can see, because how do you guarantee that it's even in the landfill? You can say, oh, I remember throwing it away. First of all, it's his fault for even having that much on there. Maybe he should have cashed out most of it or some of it. He mistakenly threw out the hard drive containing Bitcoin in 2013 during a household clear out, now worth almost £500 million. Yeah, sure. At the time, he didn't really think much of it because Bitcoin wasn't that expensive back then. Council rejected to excavate, despite Howell's offering to give council 10% of the recovered Bitcoin value if the hard drive is found. Newport City Council has consistently opposed the excavation request. And then what if you do find it and the hard drive's shot? Maybe it got wet. Maybe some junk spilled on it from the landfill, some trash, who knows? Some juice. So yeah, it's pretty interesting though. People have to, really watch where you keep your money. And I've always said that with the banks, anything digitally. I've been a proponent of paper wallets, but even paper wallets, you have to create them online so people can usually get your information from the point when you actually created it. So I'm not sure if there's any 100% secure way. Even gold and silver at home in a vault, money at home in a vault is not secure. What if you get robbed? What if there's a natural disaster and you have to leave your property, and then who knows, maybe the whole area gets decimated and you can't recover your safe, right? Or maybe somebody comes in and loots after you evacuate. Look at all the people in Florida. I'm sure there's a lot of homes that got looted, and people coming in and just rummaging through other people's stuff. Of course, that always happens. A few other things I wanted to touch on today. Majority of voters say country is headed in wrong direction. So who do you vote for? The lesser of two evils in this case. They both want lower interest rates. They both want to keep the bubbles inflated. I don't see much of a difference financially. I mean, there are some differences. You have one saying, different taxes shouldn't be allowed, and another one saying we need more student loan forgiveness and other forms of debt forgiveness. So it's the same, just in different packages. You see what I'm saying? It's they're trying to throw money at people to gain support. So that part of it's the same, but it's just the way that they're doing it is different. One wants more down payment assistance programs, more debt forgiveness, etc. The other wants, okay, don't tax this, don't tax that, don't tax overtime, etc. California is offering a 3.5% down payment program for first-time homebuyers. Remember, they were going to offer a big down payment assistance program for migrants, and that had a lot of backlash. So the governor here in California backed off on that. That would have been very unpopular. Now it's a 3.5% down payment program for first-time homebuyers. I'd have to read into the provisions. Maybe you have to pay it back, maybe you don't. Either way, when you have to have so many down payment assistance programs, maybe it's time that someone should start looking at the underlying reason for the need for these programs. Not that we don't have enough programs, right? All they're talking about is, oh, we need more programs. We need more programs. Down payment assistance. Things are too expensive. We need more programs. No, we don't need no more programs. We need to figure out how to prevent home prices and homes in general, even apartments and rents. Try to figure out how to get these prices to come down. There's many ways to do it. We've talked about them on this channel here at nauseum. Ad nauseum. If you're new to this channel, just go back and watch a few videos. The price problem that we're seeing, the unaffordability problem, it's completely man-made, and therefore it's completely reversible, right? All you have to do is put a cap on lending and put a cap on the amount of money that can be created out of nothing, and also restrict corporate home buyers, which a lot of them are leveraged on debt as well. So this whole bubble, cost of living, housing bubble, is propped up and pumped up, and the bubble's been inflated by easy money and big money coming into the housing market when you talk about the investor side of things. UPS prepares for 5.9% rate increase starting at peak season's end. So at the end of holiday shopping, UPS 5.9%, outpacing the official inflation number, which they're saying is 2.4%. Is that right? What we just looked at? Which really we know it's more than that. So if the cost of living only went up by 2-something%, why are businesses having to raise their prices so rapidly, including UPS? But how's the consumer going to continue to pay these higher prices? Of course, businesses, UPS included, their costs are up. Energy costs are up. The demand for higher wages is up. Look at all the strikes. Look at the ports almost shut down because of strikes. People are demanding higher wages, and that's affecting businesses. But then it gets passed on to the consumer in most cases, right? So how's the consumer going to keep absorbing higher and higher costs at the same time as continuing to go further and further into debt? Not everybody, but when you look at most consumers, most people slipping further into debt all the time. Speaking of big money coming in and distorting the markets, just talked about investors coming in, buying homes. That distorts home prices. That's one of the many factors. Private equity firms are buying up local small HVAC, electrical, and plumbing businesses. What's going to happen when these smaller companies are bought up by conglomerates or mega companies, mega corporations? They're going to raise the prices. It's not like Walmart where everything's cheaper and they get a competitive edge because they're cheaper. It's just the opposite. When you eliminate the competition, then you're going to be seeing higher prices. I think the same thing would happen at Walmart if a lot of other stores went out of business. Let's say you wiped out Target and Meijer and some of the other big department stores. I think Walmart would then raise their prices because they would be able to, because there'll be less competition. So more competition is better. But when you get a bunch of private equity firms coming in and buying small businesses, it's also been an epidemic in mobile home and trailer parks. A big mega companies coming in, private equity firms coming in, and as soon as they buy up the trailer parks, they don't lower the prices. They don't even keep prices the same. They raise their prices drastically. I've seen a lot of videos interviewing people in which they've had their lot rent sometimes even double over just a few years, right? So it's pretty tragic when you see big business come in buying up small and local businesses. Florida small businesses hammered by back-to-back hurricanes. A lot of these businesses will not be able to recover, and they're going to have no choice but to sell off their business. And that's sad too. And the same thing is going to happen in North Carolina. A lot of people are going to be selling off their property to investors, and investors are going to get this stuff for a fraction of the real value. Toyota chairman warns jobs would be lost in shift to EVs. Another headline here, 9.9 million pounds of ready-to-eat meat and poultry recalled over listeria concerns. See, that's the problem with having everything so consolidated, right? When you have a company or two or three that dominate the food industry, if you have one contamination at a plant, you're talking about millions of pounds of meat, right? So it's a real tragedy that we got away from the small and local farmers becoming the big players in the food supply. 3 million people still without power in the wake of the latest hurricane. That's Hurricane Milton. Goes on and on, folks. GM, General Motors, announces layoffs, discontinuation of once popular Chevy Malibu. Interesting. New York City office building once worth $322 million closes for 97% less. The buyer paid $8.5 million. Wow. You have to wonder about the banks that are behind these loans for these large commercial properties, office buildings, and towers, especially in New York City. You have to wonder where they got their loan from, who loaned them the money, and then what's the condition of the bank right now? How far underwater are a lot of the banks that gave out these loans? And are they just getting backdoor bailouts? That's the question. We haven't seen any big bank failures since 2023 now. Well, we had a minor one, but you know what I mean? A lot of people predicted a domino effect that the entire banking industry was going to go down. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, but look at the odds. If the money keeps flowing into the banks just to keep the banks propped up, then where does it end? That's the dangerous part. This could go way into the stratosphere with the cost of living and inflation continuing to get worse. We need a correction. We need a crash. We need something to come in and make things more sane, normal. Define normal. Is there a normal? Anyways, hope you guys like this update. What do you think about the homeless trying to burn me up? Was it on purpose? I doubt it. Maybe though. Who knows? I don't have any enemies of homeless people. I don't go around, saying I don't go around doing bad things to homeless people. So I don't have any homeless enemies that I know of. But that's what I think caused the fire. What do you guys think about all this, all that, and more? Please let me know down in comments. Please make sure you're subscribed. October, we're getting close to being halfway through the month. And I think the second half of October and the rest of the year, we're going to see mind-blowing things happen. So get ready. Keep stacking as always. Bye for now. Peace.